Chapter 1 of The King's Daughter and Other Stories for Girls by various authors. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. The King's Daughter and Other Stories for Girls. The King's Daughter. I wish I were a princess. Emma stood with the dust-brush in her hand, pausing on her way upstairs to her own pretty little white room, which she was required to put in order every day. "Why, my child?" asked her mother. "Because then I would never have to sweep and dust and make beds, but would have plenty of servants to do these things for me." "That is a very foolish wish, my daughter, but even if you were a princess, I think you would find it best to learn how to do these things, so that you could do them in case of necessity." "But it is never necessary for princesses to work." "There my little girl proves her ignorance. If she will come to me after her work is done, I will show her a picture." The little bedroom was at length put to rights, and Emma came to her mother, reminding her of her promise about the picture. "What do you see, my child?" her mother asked, as she laid the picture before her daughter. "I see a young girl with her dress fastened up, an apron on, and a broom in her hand." "Can you tell me what kind of place she is in?" "I do not know. There are walls and arches of stone, and a bare stone floor. I don't think it can be a pleasant place." "No, it is not. It is a prison, and the young girl is a king's daughter." "A king's daughter!" "Yes, and her story is a very sad one." "Please tell me about her." Many years ago the King of France was Louis XVI, and his wife was Marie Antoinette. They were not a wicked king and queen, but they were thoughtless and fond of pleasure. They forgot that it was their duty to look after the good of their people, so they spent money extravagantly in their own pleasures, while the whole nation was suffering. The people became dissatisfied, and when finally Louis and Marie Antoinette saw the mistake they had been making, and tried to change their conduct, it was too late. The people, urged on by their leaders, learned to hate their king and queen. They were taken with their 2 children and shut up in a prison called the Temple. There were dreadful times in France then, and every one who was suspected of being friendly to the king and his family was sent to prison and to the guillotine. The prisoners in the Temple passed the time as best they could. The king gave lessons to his son and daughter every day, or read aloud to them all, while Marie Antoinette, Madame Elizabeth, and the young Marie Theresa sewed. After a while the angry people took away the king and beheaded him, and shortly after the little son was separated from his mother, sister, and aunt, and shut up by himself in the charge of a cruel jailer. Next it was Marie Antoinette's turn to ascend the scaffold, which she did October 16th, 1793. Her daughter Marie Theresa was then left alone with her aunt, the Madame Elizabeth. But it was not long she was allowed this companionship. Madame Elizabeth was taken away and beheaded, and then the poor young girl of 16 was left entirely by herself in a dismal prison, guarded and waited on by brutal soldiers. For a year and a half she lived thus, leading the most wretched existence, and not knowing whether her mother and aunt were alive or dead. Years afterward, when she was free, she wrote about her life in prison. In that we read, "I only asked for the simple necessities of life, and these they often harshly refused me. I was, however, enabled to keep myself clean. I had at least soap and water, and I swept out my room every day." So here in the picture you see a king's daughter, and the granddaughter of an empress, Marie Theresa of Austria, one of the most remarkable women in history, after having carefully made her toilet, sweeping the bare stone floor of her cell. Which do you think caused her the most satisfaction in those dark days of trial? The remembrance that she was the daughter of a king, or the knowledge of domestic duties, which she had probably learned while she was a happy, envied princess, living in a palace and surrounded by a great many servants?
Sample complete. Ready to continue?